I stood at the window of my penthouse office, watching the city glow as dusk settled in. 50 stories below, employees trickled out of the building, among them, my father, mother, and sister. They had no idea they were working in my building, let alone for my company. 10 years ago, they kicked me out of our home, branding me useless, a failure, a disappointment. Now they were employed by Nova Technologies, unaware that I was the founder and CEO. The irony never got old. "Miss Parker," came my assistant Sarah's voice over the intercom, "everything's set for tomorrow's all-staff meeting. Are you sure you want to do this?" I touched the glass and smiled. "Yes. It's time." That night, the night they cast me out, was etched into my memory. I was 22, a fresh computer science graduate. Not the lawyer they'd expected me to become. "What kind of future do you have in computers?" my father had scoffed. "Success comes from power. From connections." My sister Diane was the family favorite, top law student, engaged to a senator's son, their perfect daughter. I was the misfit, the girl who preferred coding over country clubs. When I turned down a job at my father's law firm to join a tech startup, it was the final straw. "If you're too good for this family's help," he'd shouted, "you're too good for this family." I had 1 hour to pack. My mother stood in the doorway, arms folded, watching me toss clothes into a bag. "This is for your own good, Emma," she said coldly. "Sometimes you need to hit rock bottom to find your way." Diane leaned on the doorframe, smug. "Maybe now you'll see what real life looks like, instead of playing with your little computer games." I left with $200, a laptop, and an idea that would change everything. The startup I joined had groundbreaking AI tech, but zero leadership. Within 6 months, it was tanking. That's when I made my move. I pitched a plan to investors, buy the company, restructure it. They were hesitant. I was young. Unknown. No business background. But I knew the tech better than anyone. I got the funding. By 25, I had transformed the company into Nova Technologies, now one of the country's fastest-growing tech giants. I stayed in the shadows, using holding companies to keep my identity hidden. Publicly, the COO was the face of the company. I ran everything behind the scenes. 3 years ago, Nova bought the downtown tower where my father's struggling law firm leased space. Instead of evicting them, I had HR offer them jobs. My father became our in-house legal counsel. My mother took a position as an office manager. Diane, her once glowing law career dimmed, accepted a role in our contracts department. Sometimes I watched them through security cameras. My father, silver creeping through his hair, rushing into the building each morning. My mother, throwing office parties, trying to climb the corporate ladder. Diane, her designer wardrobe faded, always hustling to prove herself. They adored Nova. I heard the praise secondhand, family events I wasn't invited to, relayed through connections I'd carefully maintained. A world-class company, my father would boast. Finally, a place that sees our potential, my mother would chime in. If only they knew the CEO they admired was the daughter they discarded. Now, as I stood alone in my office on the eve of my reveal, I thought of everything it took to get here. The nights spent coding on borrowed couches. The skipped meals to pay for servers. The pitch meetings where no one took me seriously because I was too young, or simply a woman. Sarah knocked once before stepping in. "The presentation's ready. All staff have been notified. Your family will be in the front row." I turned away from the window. "How many employees are in this building now?" "Just over 3,000, she said. I nodded and picked up the only personal item on my desk, a photo of me at my college graduation. The last time they saw me with pride in their eyes, I was smiling then, unaware that within months, my family would disown me. "Miss Parker," Sarah's voice came gently, "second thoughts?" I set the photo back on the desk. "No, they need to know who they've been working for, and who they threw away." Tomorrow's meeting wasn't just about revealing my identity, it was also the launch of Nova's newest innovation, an AI system designed to revolutionize legal research. The irony was too perfect. The daughter they dismissed as a failure had created the very tool that would reshape their beloved profession. My phone buzzed. An email, from my father, sent to his department head. Looking forward to finally meeting the CEO tomorrow. I have some suggestions regarding legal department restructuring. I couldn't help but smile. He still believed he knew best, still clung to the idea that prestige and tradition were the only real measures of success. Tomorrow would dismantle that illusion. Sarah handed me a folder. Your speech for tomorrow, though I doubt you'll need it. I took it and nodded. 10 years, I said quietly. 10 years building this company. 10 years watching them walk these halls, never knowing. Tomorrow, they'd finally understand what they had thrown away. But as I looked out over the city again, I realized, this wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. About proving that success doesn't always wear a tailored suit or carry a last name soaked in influence. Sometimes, it comes from the person they least expect, the one they underestimated, ignored, cast aside. Sarah, I called as she reached the door, have security on alert, tomorrow might get intense. She nodded, already knowing. When my family realized who truly ran Nova Technologies, who signed their paychecks, who held the reins of their futures, it would be nothing short of a reckoning. But I was ready. I hadn't built an empire by avoiding uncomfortable truths. Tomorrow, the daughter they abandoned would show them exactly what useless had become. The company auditorium was packed. 3,000 employees filled every seat, the atmosphere electric with curiosity. For a decade, Nova's CEO had remained a mystery. That mystery was about to end. From the prep room, I watched through the two-way glass as my family took their seats in the front row. My father adjusted his tie, no doubt rehearsing the pitch he planned to deliver to the CEO. My mother smoothed her skirt, likely preparing to mention her network of influential friends. Diane checked her reflection in a compact mirror, probably hoping this meeting might jumpstart her stagnant career. 2 minutes, Sarah said softly, placing a water bottle in my hand. I took a sip, meeting my own gaze in the mirror. Gone was the scared, discarded 22-year-old. In her place stood the architect of one of the nation's most powerful tech companies. The COO walked on stage, beginning the introduction. I waited behind the curtain, listening as he highlighted our achievements, the AI breakthroughs, the global expansion, and the legal research platform that would redefine the industry. And now, he said, voice booming across the room, the moment you've all been waiting for. Please welcome Nova Technologies founder and CEO. I stepped into the spotlight. The auditorium went silent. Then I heard it. My mother's sharp gasp. My father's stifled exhale. The sound of Diane's coffee cup crashing to the floor. I stood tall, calm, unshaken. Good morning, I said, my voice steady through the mic. I'm Emma Parker, though some of you once knew me by a different name. I looked directly at the front row. Welcome to my company. The room buzzed with murmurs. Recognition flickered across faces as the pieces came together. The anonymous CEO had been among them all along. 10 years ago, I said, I was told I was wasting my time, that computers weren't a real career, that true success came from tradition, from connections, from doing what I was told. I paused. My family believed that, and when I chose my own path, they cast me out. My father's face had gone pale. My mother stared at the floor. Diane looked stunned, speechless. But the people who doubted me, who dismissed me, have been working in this building for the past 3 years. I let that sink in. The daughter they called a failure had become their employer. Their leader. Their future. In fact, I said, they're sitting right here in the front row. Every head in the auditorium turned. Recognition spread across the crowd like wildfire, murmurs rising as employees pieced together the truth. The legal counsel, the office manager, the contract specialist who had all tried so hard to climb the corporate ladder, were my family. I let the silence settle before speaking again. But this isn't about revenge, I said, voice softer now. This is about innovation, about seeing potential where others see none, about believing in yourself, even when no one else does. I clicked the remote. Behind me, the screens lit up with a sleek demonstration of our latest creation, an AI-driven legal research system. Today, we launch a technology that will transform the legal industry. I paused, allowing the moment to land. And it was created by someone who was once told she was wasting her time with computers. What followed was flawless. The demo showed our system processing millions of legal documents in seconds, identifying precedents, predicting outcomes, redefining how firms would work. As the crowd watched, I caught a glimpse of my father's face. The shock had faded. In its place, understanding. He knew. I had just rendered his entire old-school method of practicing law obsolete. When the presentation ended, the applause was thunderous. It wasn't just for the innovation. It was for me. The CEO who had been quietly among them all along, the woman who had been underestimated, and had still risen. Security discreetly guided my family to my office. I stayed a little longer, answering questions from excited employees, then finally made my way upstairs. They were waiting. My father paced, jaw tight. My mother sat stiffly, hands clenched in her lap. Diane stood at the window, watching the city like it might give her answers. How? My father asked as I walked in. How did I build a multi-billion-dollar company? I said, setting my speech folder on the desk. With the skills you dismissed, the tech you mocked, and the determination you tried to crush. Emma, my mother said, voice wavering, we only wanted what was best. For you? I cut in, taking my seat, the real one, not the modest desk they'd seen me use. No, you wanted what looked best to other people. That's not the same thing. Diane turned from the window, eyes wide. All this time, you were our boss. Ironic, isn't it? I picked up the old graduation photo from my desk, holding it up briefly. The daughter you disowned was the one signing your paychecks. My father stiffened, trying to reclaim control. Now listen here. No, I interrupted, calmly but firmly. You lost the right to father me the night you gave me an hour to pack up my life and leave. I stood, adjusting my blazer. You're all good at your jobs, your reviews prove it, and you'll keep those jobs, but I imagine future family dinners will feel a bit different. My mother whispered, barely audible, you let us stay, even after everything? I nodded. Because this was never about revenge, it was about proving something to myself, that success doesn't need approval, that it doesn't have to look like what you expected. They left in silence, not triumphant, not angry, just stunned. The illusion of superiority, finally broken. The months that followed were full of quiet reckonings. My father's memo about restructuring the legal department went unanswered. Our AI had made most of it irrelevant. My mother's social connections held no weight at a company where outcomes mattered more than optics. And Diane? She came to terms with the fact that her sister, not her resume, now shaped her future. But something else happened, too. They changed. Little by little, they began to see me. Not as a disappointment, not as the rebel daughter who refused to fall in line. But as a visionary. As someone who had built something extraordinary, not despite their rejection, but because of it. Family dinners resumed. Only now, they were held in my penthouse. The conversations were different, too, less about appearances, more about purpose, less judgment, more curiosity. They listened now. They asked questions. They saw value in what they once dismissed. I kept my old workspace downstairs, the one I used before the reveal. Some days, I still sit there, side by side with employees, quietly coding or mentoring new hires. It keeps me grounded, reminds me why I built Nova in the first place. Not to get even, but to show the world, and myself, that the labels others give you don't define your future. There's a new photo on my desk now. Taken at last year's company picnic. My family is in it, all of them smiling. This time, the smiles are real. We're not perfect. But we're trying. And me? I'm exactly where I was meant to be, leading the company I built from nothing. Proof that useless is just another word for underrated.